I think we'd like to get started. I'm glad you're wearing your mask. I think for all of us it's important. We kind of feel it's a paramount duty to make sure our community is safe and that everyone is healthy. So thank you very much for doing that. Good afternoon. My name is Tom Henderson. I'm the chair of the Olympia Arts and Heritage Alliance. On behalf of my board, I'd like to welcome you to this event to celebrate the recently completed project commemorating Black pioneers Alexander and Rebecca Howard. It's fitting that during Black History Month we can dedicate a historical marker. It's permanently installed just on the other side of East Bay Drive within sight of the original Howard property and restores the geographic name Howard Point. The Howard Point marker was funded by Thurston County Heritage Grant and was carried out by the Arts and Heritage Alliance in partnership with the City of Olympia. There are many people here, many of whom you'll hear from later on, that have made this possible. So thank you to the East Bay and Bigelow Neighborhood Associations for their contribution to fund this event. Thank you to the Thurston County Board of Commissioners, Chair Mejia, Commissioner Ty Menser and Gary Edwards, and the Thurston County Historic Commission and Chair Rob Kirkwood. Thank you to the City of Olympia Mayor Cheryl Selby, Council Member Dante Payne, Olympia Historic Preservation Officer Mary Grace Goodell, and Public Works staff that installed the marker. I'd also like to formally thank our Arts and Heritage Alliance Board, many of whom are here today, and the Olympia Historical Society Bigelow House Museum Board, our partner in hosting this event. We recognize the team working on this project: Ed Eckley, Dr. Thelma Jackson, Esther Mumford, Jennifer Crooks, Mary Grace Goodell, Shauna Stevenson, and Dr. Terrell Howard Bryan, and the marker designer Amber Rainey. And finally, we're especially thankful that Dr. Terrell Howard Bryan and her family could be here today to celebrate this dedication with us. Understanding the stories and voices from the past bring our history alive. Sharing those stories helps us improve our understanding of the cultures and communities that made Olympia what it is today. We will begin the program with the voices of New Life Baptist Church of Lacey members, vocalist Lori Jones and Altavia Jones, singing Lift Every Voice and Sing. If you would come forward, please.
Those of you who can, if you wouldn't mind standing with us. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory. one. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori and Octavia. Being in this place at the southern end of the Salish Sea reminds us that this has been an honored site from time immemorial. Olympia Arts and Heritage Alliance recognizes and affirms the significance of this local land and its waters. We are within the traditional lands of the Squaxin Island people. Squaxin Island tribal families trace their lineage back to Stachess in what is now Olympia. We also recognize the Squaxin Island tribe are people of the water, which includes their relationship to the artesian wells in and around Olympia, and celebrate that continued relationship. We acknowledge the indigenous people that have lived and cared for this land since time immemorial. We honor their ancestors who came before, the descendants here now, those that will come in the future. We honor their abiding respect for the land and the importance of preserving and protecting the natural environment for generations to come. We welcome Squaxin Tribal Vice Chair and Olympia Historical Society Bigelow House Museum Board Member Charlene Price, who will offer a blessing. She will be followed by Greg Griffith, President of Olympia Historical Society Bigelow House Museum Board. So thank you.
Gwa alapu di ishit sitsiag kuthlapi sitsta. Asquirative chud totis slahe, asquirative chud totis slichas. To all you good people, it's an honor to be here, to be among you. My given Indian name is Mist on the Water. Today, as a Squaxin tribal elder, but also as a elected official, I'd like to introduce you to Lisa Johns. Lisa Johns' family has resided in these areas for thousands of years, including my people too. Today we welcome you to these lands, these loved lands, this area, this place of the marine waters, this place where artesian wells were abundant. I am from Squaxin. Squaxin Island tribe is known as people of the water. We are the people that resided in Olympia, that drank the pure good water, and the water to us, to our people, has always been medicine. So today, medicine's fallen on you. All this beautiful rain. So today, good people, we welcome you. And to the ladies that sang, oh my goodness, I thought they were angels. So beautiful, thank you. And thank you to all the good people that do the work in the arts and humanities for the people. We bless you and thank you.
Okay. Well, once again, good afternoon, and thank you so much, Charlene, for your welcome to these lands on behalf of the Squaxin Island tribe. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay? Okay, great. As I don't have my glasses because they get fogged up, so bear with me while I read my notes, and hopefully I read them correctly. Well, once again, my name is Greg Griffith, and on behalf of the board and members of the Olympia Historical Society Bigelow House Museum, it is a great honor for me to welcome you to the Bigelow House Museum and to share with you this historic place that is listed on the National Register of Historic Places and the Olympia Heritage Register. And of course, a special welcome to members of the Howard family who are here who are with us today. So thank you very much for joining us. Well, in addition to this welcome to you, I want to share with you why we're having this program here at the Bigelow House. There are several reasons for that, and of course, the wonderful weather we're having is evidence of that. But most important is the ability, in my mind, of historic places to transport us and teach us about the past and how we have got to where we are today. Bear that in mind that we do not know the exact date of its construction, but we do know that the original portion of the house behind me here in the background was built at some point in the 1860s. And that was several years after Daniel Bigelow arrived in Olympia in 1854 and filing for his donation land claim, all in the same period that the Howards arrived from the east. While we do not have any documentation of the interactions between the Howards and the Bigelows, there were likely many occasions where the two families interacted. After all, both families were deeply engaged in the small town civic life, as well as practically being neighbors. Also, as many of you know today, both Daniel and Elizabeth Ann White Bigelow were deeply involved in progressive movements of that era, such as women's suffrage, temperance, and abolition of slavery. The following quote gives clear testimony of the Bigelows' belief in equal rights for all, and I quote, "I can hardly see why all who are governed by law should not have a voice in making it. In other words, that man has no right to restrain his fellow man in any of his natural liberties or to deprive him of his property without his consent." And this quote is from Daniel R. Bigelow's diary, dated 21 May of 1854, while he was serving in the territorial legislature. And I also want to thank historian Ed Eckley and one of our speakers today for sharing this quote with me. Thank you, Ed, for that. And with that, once again, welcome to the Bigelow House and this celebration. And also a special note of thanks to Olympia Historical Society and Bigelow House board member Shanna Stevenson and our site manager Ron Locke and the Olympia Parks and Recreation Department for mowing the yard and all their work in organizing this event today. So it is indeed a pleasure for us to welcome you to Bigelow House and this special ceremony. And at this point, I'll turn it back over to Tom to introduce the rest of our program.
LaTanya Hunter came down sick this morning and got a phone call just a few minutes before coming here. And she was going to be our MC and introduce the speakers that we have here today. So I will do that for her. Ed Eckley is a historian, writer, member of the Olympia Historical Society Bigelow House Museum. He will provide an insight into the effort to restore the name Howard Point. So, Ed, would you come up and let us...
Hello, everyone. It's very much an honor to be here today. The background, the beginning of this project dates back to 2012 when the City Heritage Commission brought together a committee of folks to create a walking tour of sites that are related to the early African American community here. And a number of those committee members have been very involved in that. I got to meet Dr. Thelma Jackson for the first time, and we've become close working partners on this and another project that she'll talk about a little bit. But I want to give you a little bit of background on the Howard family and how this marker came to be. The Howards, Alexander and Rebecca, arrived here in the late 1850s, just a few years after Olympia was founded as a town. And they took up the management of a hotel, the Pacific House Hotel, in downtown. And under their management, it became well respected as a well-run, fine establishment. One of the nicest hotels, one of their first hotels, and one of the nicest hotels on Puget Sound. A little out of breath. Excuse me. Their hotel was frequented by a lot of dignitaries passing through the area. The legislators, territorial legislators, ate there often. And that fact actually gives rise to one of my favorite stories about Rebecca Howard. It was widely known that she would not allow anyone to call her Aunt Becky unless she gave them specific permission to do so. And as many historians of the American West have pointed out, the American West was a place where racial hierarchies were sort of in flux. And she understood that. This story shows that she understood that. She was able to assert her personhood and let people know that, she had some agency in how she was referred to. The Howards took their success in their hotel business and began purchasing land. And they purchased a farm just north of here. They were the Bigelow's neighbors. And Alexander Howard began raising vegetables and fruits for market on their land. They also became very active in a number of civic efforts around this area, around this time. Excuse me. They were involved in an effort to support Union soldiers during the Civil War. The Sanitary Commission was the name of the organization. They also pledged land, some of their land, in exchange for the Northern Pacific Railroad to come here and make Olympia the terminus. That didn't happen, but they were willing to put up land for that effort. In the 1860s, they also adopted a young son by the name of Frank. He was the son of a white settler and his Native American wife, and when it became known to a group of local women that Frank was being abused by his father, they intervened and they brought Frank to Olympia, and the Howards agreed to raise him as their own, and descendants of Frank Howard are with us here today at this event. Very nice. The Howards passed away in the 1880s. 1881, Rebecca Howard passed away in her 50s, and in 1890, Alexander passed away. So now we jump ahead to just a few years ago. I was working on this project to create this walking tour. There are copies here available today. We found a number of families that lived here that were part of the fabric of early Olympia. And while I was waiting at the archives, I had requested some documents. I was looking at a map of Olympia from the 1890s that I looked at many, many times. And for the first time, I noticed that there was a small peninsula sticking out. It was labeled on the map Howard Point, and I thought, well, that doesn't seem like that would be a coincidence. And sure enough, when we looked into it, that's when we discovered that that was the land that they owned. That was the location of their farm. And so when I brought this to the committee, we also discovered that it had never been formally recognized. While we did find evidence it was in common use at that time, 1890s, early 1900s, it was referred to as Howard Point. It just fell out of use as their land got built over as another neighborhood of Olympia. It just sort of was lost in usage. And so, since we began the effort to began the process to petition the government, went through state and federal agencies to make sure that they to request that it be named, and they granted our request in 2019. And since that time, we've been working to get this marker placed, and now it is. And I just want to leave you with the thought that I'm so excited about this, because it will serve as a reminder going forward that Olympia has always been a diverse community. There's always been different communities here that make up the larger community of Olympia. And in addition to that, that we should always be on the lookout for new stories, because there's always new stories out there that we need to learn about. There's always new stories to learn. And even after years of working on Olympia history, I'm always surprised to find these stories. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed. Dr. Thelma Jackson is an author and has spent more than 50 years actively involved in community activities. She's a longtime resident of Lacey, and we'll talk about the importance of unveiling the Howard Point marker during Black History Month.
Thank you and welcome all of you. The question that was posed to me is, why is this event significant for Black History Month? Let me share a little background with you here. 402 years ago, in 1619, the first kidnapped Africans were brought to this country as enslaved human beings, stripped of family, name, religion, property, wealth, status, joy, and happiness. Over the past 4 centuries, we as a people have survived, contributed, created, invented, and strived against the worst kind of odds. Rebecca and Alexander Howard were 2 such descendants. And to honor them with this marker for Howard's Point is uniquely appropriate as we conclude the observance of Black History Month here in Thurston County and the nation. This area is much richer in Black history than normally realized, and occasions such as this help to shed light on this overlooked fact. Let us continue to increase the knowledge, understanding, and appreciation for this portion of our American history. Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce Dante Payne, Olympia City Council member, and he'll talk about the importance of the historical fabric of Olympia. So thank you very much, Dante.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's such an honor to be here with you today, despite the rain, during Black History Month, to mark this special occasion in our community with the dedication of the Howard Point marker. Earlier this month, when I brought forward our city's proclamation in recognition of Black History Month, there was very specific language that I felt was important to include in the proclamation, and it reads as follows. Whereas our community acknowledges the systemic racism perpetuated by individuals and our nation's government through slavery, segregation, mass incarceration, police brutality, and economic disparity. And whereas African Americans have countless achievements despite these past and present atrocities. These words are so important because when I think of this month and its meaning, I think of my ancestors and their courage and perseverance and what we have inherited simply by being born after them. Over the years, regional and local historians have acknowledged the contributions of Rebecca and Alexander Howard and several other Black pioneers in Olympia, such as Mary Quincy, Festus Campbell, and State Representative William Owen Bush. Despite the times in which they lived, they accomplished so much not only for themselves, but for their neighbors. This not only speaks to their incredible abilities to navigate the racist environments in which they lived, but it demonstrates the grit and persistence it takes to accomplish all that they have in service to this community. And here we are today, well over a century, honoring their legacies. As many in the Black community like to say, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams. Which is what I see around the city when I look up at the banners in our downtown that tell the story of our community's diverse past and present. I'm here before you today because of them, as the first Black man and the second African American to serve on the city council in Olympia's 163-year history. It is never lost on me the tremendous honor it is to have the opportunity to serve Olympia and to be one in community with you all for moments such as these. There is no present separate of our past, and there is no future separate of the actions and the decisions we make today. That's why markers like these are so important. We must acknowledge their contributions and tell their stories to remind us of our past so that we can build a better future that is closer than the generation before to the highest ideals and principles. We must also tell their stories because we did not get here alone. It is their service and sacrifice that's paved the way for us, no matter our backgrounds. I want to thank all of our partners who were involved in getting us here today. And lastly, I want to thank Rebecca and Alexander Howard and the Howard family for the significant part they have played in our community story. Thank you.
Thank you, Dante. The granting agency was Thurston County, and I would like to have Rob Kirkwood come up and talk about the importance of this project to the mission and goals of the Heritage Grant program. Thank you very much.
I'm Rob Kirkwood. I'm the current Thurston County Chair, and I'd like to introduce Grace Edwards, who will be the Thurston County Chair next year. And Jeremy Davis is also here. He's our Thurston County staff. The County Historic Commission is funded in part by legislation that requires a portion of the county filing fees to be used for historic preservation. The Commission has a dedicated yearly operating budget and makes yearly recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners for about $30,000 in heritage grants to Thurston County nonprofits. From the grant's initial award in 2010, you know what? I'm going to start over. Sorry. Thank you for asking me to speak here today. I've already introduced Grace. And Jeremy, so we'll skip that. And I think, Senator Frazier, were you part of one of the commissioners who founded the Historic Commission? Not you? All right, she won't take any blame for that. So, people ask why I think our region's history is an important part of our county's responsibilities. Owning old cars, old boats, old houses, and preserving our region's historical structures all create a sense of enjoyment for me. And yet the responsibility to study history goes beyond those simple pleasures. I like to use the word histories, a concept that I borrowed from Lauren Hogamer. She's the Assistant Historic Preservation Officer for the City of Tacoma. We each have our own history. The study of these separate histories allows us to understand our community's challenges of the past and our community's opportunities of the present. Thurston County history, original home of the Salish people, is a rich collection of histories of people from across the continents and across the seas moving here. Starting with the original Salish inhabitants and then families like the Howards, the Bigelows, the Bushes, the Simmons, and the list goes on until present to include the May-Ha-Hees, the Hoes, the Mohammeds, and the Khans. Families moving here to work for family connection, for recreation, for military duty, our lovely spring weather, and maybe most important, freedom from fear. And later I realized I left out, I moved here for education. We can't pretend that all these folks arrived to find harmony and bliss. Hunger, homelessness, disease, and cultural tensions all play a part of our histories, and somehow our community continues to grow and thrive. Thurston County Historic Commission was created in 1984 to collect, promote, and educate our community about these histories of Thurston County. Let's see. The Thurston County Historic Commission is funded in part by legislation that requires a portion of the county's filing fees of over $458,000 be awarded to local heritage grant projects. These grant projects from across the county vary from interpretive panels, including the Howard panel, the Dr. Jackson's book, the document preservation in Lacey and Gate, to restoration projects right here at the Bigelow House. The awarded funds have been combined with other fund sources, donations, and volunteer labor to perform more than $1.2 million in heritage projects around Thurston County. This year, in addition to the Heritage Grant Program, the Thurston County Historic Commission will restart the Bronze Historical Marker Program by placing a marker at the Yelm Cemetery. We'll print a third printing of the Water, Woods, and Prairies collection of essays written by local volunteers, is available here at the Bigelow House. We will celebrate our third County Heritage Day and construct an 8-panel interpretive kiosk at the Regional Athletic Complex. So all this said, the Commission, like so many volunteer organizations, finds itself with a few select positions open for additional folks. You can contact any of the Commission members or County Commissioner if you're interested in working on some of these projects. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Rob. I didn't notice if the chair of the County Board of Commissioners is here. I don't see her. Okay, she said she would like to say something if she made it here, but she had another engagement before this event. So at this point, I would like to introduce you to the family of the Howards. And I'm very grateful that they could be here today. We'll have Dr. Terrell Howard Bryant talk and tell you about her. She is also here with Carolee Bryant and with Storm Bryant Williamson. So that's the family that is here. And do you have some words that you'd like to share with us?
On this rainy day, I just want to thank all of you all for showing up, because if Rebecca hadn't been my grandmother, I wouldn't be here. Rebecca's son, Frank, his name when he was born was Isaac Ingalls Stevens Glasgow. And when he was adopted, they changed his name to Frank Alexander Howard. And for reasons unknown, they were the ones that raised my dad. And one of my brothers said that in 1850, a Howard adopted a Glasgow, and in 1950, a Howard adopted a Glasgow, because my parents also adopted a child. And so with that, I'm very, very proud that you all have done it. When I started this journey in 2010, All I knew was my dad was Mortimer Howard, and that he didn't know his father, and that Frank and Lily had raised him, and that they were from Olympia, and that was it. And I read an article, I typed in Rebecca Howard, and it just so happened that that week someone named Dowd had written an article in the paper about, does anybody know Rebecca Howard? And I've been on the journey since. And thank you all so much. And my daughter wants to tell you what it feels like now to her, because that's another generation, and then my granddaughter.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And again, like everybody has said before. All right. So being able to grow up knowing grandparents is an extraordinary time for any child. I was very lucky. I got to know a lot of my grandparents and great grandparents. Unfortunately, in this case, that was not one of them. But having that kind of family, you get to hear lots of stories and your history as it goes back in time. This was a blank spot, and so having my mom go through this history with this committee and finding all this information out has been extremely blessing for me. And so it gives me more history that I never had before. So being part of this Howard lineage has given me much more. I get confused, everybody. It has returned my history to me, and I'm going to turn it over because I don't talk in front of people very well. So thank you all very much.
Well, she said I like to talk, and she's not wrong. And so, hello everyone. I'm Carolee Bryan. I'm the fourth great granddaughter of Rebecca Howard, and so fourth great granddaughter of Rebecca Howard. And so, as a member of one of the younger Howard generations, I am honored to have learned about the great history associated with the family name. I had the opportunity to actually live in Lacey when I was younger and meet my great-grandfather, but as a child, I didn't really understand how great of an opportunity and how great of a time that could have been for me to learn more. So I'm grateful for my granny to have started this journey 10 years ago and allowed me to come along and learn everything as we go. And so I personally myself want to hope to one day impact the community as much as Rebecca Howard, but it is even more enlightening and even more motivating to know that she's already kind of set this path for me. I just have to follow in her footsteps.
Well, I'd like to have you come back up again, because I have a book to present to you. We talked to it before. It's the Thurston County Water, Woods, and Quarries book. Stories that were written by volunteers. And it gives a lot of information with regard to where we are today and where we're going as a community. So I'd like to present this to you and your family.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hopefully we have a better understanding of the historical diversity of our community. We need to recognize the value of all voices and recognize the contributions of the many cultures and communities that have influenced the development of Olympia, Lacey, Tumwater, Thurston County. I hope you will stay and visit afterwards and have an opportunity to go and actually look at the marker where it is across the street. We will have helpers to get us safely across the street. And we'd like to get some photos to commemorate the installation and also to commemorate this event. So thank you very much for that. In conclusion, we will have Lori Jones and Altavia Jones come again, and they'll provide the closing song. And that will be, He's Got the Whole World in His Hands. So if the two of you could come up again. Thank you very much. So please join us today in singing the song with glory.
Today we welcome you to these lands, these loved lands, this area, this place of the marine waters, this place where artesian wells were abundant. I am from Squaxin. Squaxin Island Tribe is known as people of the water. We are the people that resided in Olympia, that drank the pure good water, and the water to us, to our people, has always been medicine. So today, medicine's fallen on you.
Keeping each of us. So we want to just have you join in with us to sing. He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 He's got the little bitty babies in his hands. He's got the little bitty babies in his hands. He's got the little bitty babies in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got you and me, brother, in his hands. He's got you and me, brother, in his hands. He's got you and me, brother, in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got you and me, sister, in his hands. He's got you and me, sister, in his hands. He's got you and me, sister, in his hands. He's got the whole world 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 in his hands. Thank you.
Thank you. There's some refreshments, water and packaged food at the table back there. There's material and paperwork. There's information about the Bigelow House Museum and some of the studies that we've been hearing about. So if you have an opportunity, please stop by and take a look at that as well. And we look forward to talking with you after the event. So thank you very much again for joining us today.